Many of us are in our homes right now, but to just let all these other voices and noises in. Taking another deep breath. The sounds of the winged ones. Sounds of music and humans far off in the distance. There's a rooster, perhaps. That's little Jerry there. Taking another breath, arriving in this space. And we'll start. That was our starting with a piece of music, a little different than One Spirit, but that was our starting with a piece of music. And now I will hand it over to Reverend Marshall.
I was sad one day and went for a walk. I sat in a field. A rabbit noticed my condition and came near. It often does not take more than that to help at times, to just be close to creatures who are so full of knowing, so full of love, that they don't chat. They just gaze with their marvelous understanding. That poem is called A Rabbit Noticed My Condition by St. John of the Cross. It's translated by Daniel Ladinsky in his collection Love Poems from God.
Thank you, Rev Marshall. Welcome to all of you. We are so thrilled that you're able to be here with us this evening to honor our connections with the more than human world, our furry, our feathered and thinned companions whose presence enrich our daily lives with their comforts, their humor, and their beauty. Tonight, we're going to talk about just how important and actually how magical our relationships are with our animal companions, what they mean to us, and how we can acknowledge and honor them and all that they bring. The importance of the other than human companionship we experience is something that has become increasingly apparent to all of us during the pandemic. A lot of that is due to the magic of Zoom. I'm sure that you've all heard and read reports that pet adoptions have increased as we've all been stuck at home dealing with our loneliness. As our pets have become high profile, the dynamics of these animal-human relationships have become the subject of a great deal of research. So I'm going to share with you some statistics from the Beringer-Ingelheim Association, which is focused on animal and human health. Their research shows that 72% of pet owners agreed that spending time with their pets during the pandemic reduced their stress and increased their sense of well-being. 70% of folks spent way more time with their pets while they were forced to socially distance from other humans. 60% of those folks felt more bonded with their animal companions because of that experience. And interestingly enough, 44% of female pet owners reported that if they had to, they would prefer to quarantine with their pets rather than with any human companions. We've all been in Zoom meetings where the presence of our animal companions has become not only the norm, but actually something that we really look forward to. As our kittens snuggle up to our laptops, our pups join us on our desk while we work. And getting to know our coworkers' pets has actually opened up whole new levels of intimacy in connection with humans as well as with animals. The foregrounding of our animal companions has become a whole thing. You might even remember that infamous incident in which an attorney showed up to a hearing with his Zoom filter stuck so that he appeared as a cat, which I actually think was preferable to his actual appearance, but that's just me. In an August 2021 report in the Washington Post, they interviewed hundreds of folks who had adopted pets during the pandemic, specifically for companionship while they were socially distancing. You can see here some quotes from people whose pups have enriched their lives in ways that they could never have foreseen. Here we have Basil and Cricket and Nathan, who got their humans out of the house to get some exercise, helped them facilitate connections with other people while they were out and about, brought them joy, love, and warmth. These are just some of the many ways in which our animal companions have enriched our lives as we've struggled through these last couple of years.
And there are many health and wellness aspects of this human-animal bond that Elizabeth is talking about. And it also means that when we lose that bond, it hurts. And so today in our time together, we're going to do a little bit to honor that, to honor the lives that were lost during this time as well. And that bond is strong. And why is it so strong? There's a lot of research on that as well, that pets help lower our blood pressure. Pets can be helpful for folks who are on the autistic spectrum or suffer from depression, for helping people with heart situations, PTSD, and for the dog folks, often with obesity, not so much with us cat folks. We just sit on the sofa and say, come here. But those of you who live with dogs often spend time out walking with them. A fascinating study that was done during the pandemic on canine and human partners showed that when they did mindfulness together, there were all sorts of amazing benefits too. So this research is starting to look at some of the spiritual aspects, the meditation aspects, the mindfulness aspects beyond just the things that might happen physiologically in our body. But I would be remiss not to say, and those of you who know me, that there are some unwellness benefits too of the human-animal bond. We see that as we take more and more and more and more of the planet for the things that we feel like we need, we sprawl into spaces, displacing animals, leading to habitat loss. As we keep animals captive in smaller and smaller and smaller spaces, that leads to disease. Of course, there's waste and pollutants and exploiting and trapping and poaching and breeding. My God, all of these things, all of this is also part of the human-animal bond? Don't know. And so remembering tonight, as we talk about animals thriving and we talk about animal loss, to remember this overarching idea that we are all earthlings. What one of us does affects the rest. And the decisions that we make are important to animals thriving and can also lead to animal loss.
Animals help us energetically and spiritually. They are constant companions, showing us a true model of unconditional love. They may come to us when we're crying. They may distract us from our own anxiety with their high-spirited movement. Or they might have a keen awareness of when we're in need of their acceptance and company. Recent research suggests eye contact with dogs mimics that of a mother and a baby. Some folks even believe that our animal companions choose to take on certain physical challenges or conditions so that we don't have to. Their very existence implies that there's a positive force in our lives. We are changed by our connection with animals. A relationship with them is a spiritual path. They make us laugh and remind us not to take everything so seriously. They invite us to be vulnerable safely, and we hold space for them to be. They show us their presence, help us learn to be here now. They encourage our playfulness. Loving an animal connects us with our own great capacity for loving, which we may otherwise forget. They help us keep our hearts a little more open when we're out in the world. And to be loved by an animal shows us that it must be true. We are worthy of receiving love. Animals in our homes often give us gifts as they transition. They show us our own humanity, help us measure how far we've come in the timeline of their lifespans. We might look back at what we've learned since the day we met them and how they've contributed to our growth. We may think we're raising them, but could it also be that they're raising us? We humans have the unique experience of enriching our lives with, say, a kitten or a young pup who later grows older than us in animal years and then may very well become our ancestor. And then we might speak to them in the quiet hours, just like we speak to a beloved human loved one we've lost. With all this in mind, it's no wonder that we want to use ritual to honor our animal companions. I don't know about you, but I've attended funerals for distant human relatives that I hardly knew, but my canine familiar has slept right next to me for almost 10 years now, and he snores. How could a loss like that be any less significant than the loss of a person? For those of us who have endured the precious pain of a beloved animal's death, we know that it is not. These tender relationships are sacred and deserve our intentional recognition.
Marshall is absolutely correct. Our culture does not deal well with death and grief, even in the human world, let alone death and grief over the loss of our animal companions. I'm sure any of you who have experienced the loss of an animal familiar might have felt ashamed to show your grief, or might have been poo-pooed by other people who say things like, "Why are you so upset? It's just an animal. It's just a pet." People seek to minimize the loss that we feel. But in fact, the loss is profound. When I lost my first dog, I had the opportunity to speak with a therapist who worked with the ASPCA. And she explained to me that because our relationships with the beyond human world aren't linguistically based, they actually utilize a completely different portion of our brain. Because the relationship is nonverbal, it's entirely based in emotion. And therefore, when we experience the loss of that immediate connection, the pain is much more visceral, much more animal, and it's real, and it deserves to be acknowledged and honored.
I remember when I was a small child picking up chipmunks and squirrels and other animals that I thought deserved to be honored, as Elizabeth says, and bringing them home to my mother in my lunchbox to bury them in the backyard with a little funeral that said, "May the force be with you, chipmunk." Unknowingly, I was creating ritual. It took until I came to this seminary, to One Spirit, where people helped me have the words for what I was doing, helped me understand the value of those lives and ways to honor them. I've come to calling them sacred sendoffs. So tonight we're going to do a collective ritual with that idea in mind. We'll honor other than humans that we have known and some that we have not. We'll honor ones that you may have lost this week or last night, and ones that may still be on your mind a decade, or some of us 5 decades later. When we think of them, we still feel them in our hearts. Their names are still on our tongues. So we'll start by sharing with each other. Sharing our stories is important because it underscores that we value these lives and that we acknowledge that other people's grief over loss is real, as Elizabeth said, in a society that often sends us different messages. An increasing body of research attests to the pain of losing an animal we are close to. Here's an interesting study. One found that 93% of humans reported disruption in their lives, such as trouble sleeping or losing appetite. Over 50% reduced their social activities, and 45% had job-related difficulties. Other studies have documented loss of motivation, increased stress, anxiety, worry, depression. Furthermore, animal death tends to resurface our memories of past bereavements and losses. Some of you may be feeling one or more of these things tonight. And so we encourage you in this safe and loving and animal crazy community to share with each other. Because research also suggests that both talking about an animal's death and social support are essential, absolutely essential to grieving. So David, our trusty driver here tonight and keeper of this Zoomosphere for us, is going to put us in breakouts in groups of 3, 9 minutes total, although there may be an occasional group that has 4 people in it, and just kind of work with that, so that you can share with each other. So that you can, if you brought a memento or a photo tonight, you can share that with each other. You can share a story. If you don't have a story to share, you can be a witness and hear someone else's story. And so that you can all do that with privacy, away from YouTube version of this, Elizabeth and Marshall and I will stay here in the room to share our stories so that you can share with each other unencumbered. And Marshall has an excellent tip for you in case you start to get a little during the sharing.
So this is called Remember Your Left Foot. I invite you to go back later and feel your feelings all the way through. But if you get uncomfortably overwhelmed for this time and space, you can press your left big toe down toward the earth and just tap it there. And that will prompt your body to bring your emotional energy down and help you ground for the moment. Hope you enjoy, and we'll see you soon. Off you go.
There she is. Hey, Elizabeth. So we have about 3 minutes each to share a story. As they often say around here, who wants to go second?
Well, I can share about this dog, Thaddeus.
Oh,
This was a former partner's dog, and he was probably 3 when I met him, but we totally fell in love. And so, even after the humans in the family split up, we had a custody arrangement, and we would meet in the middle so that I could spend some time with him still, and he could be with me. And he just passed away about, actually, it was right before COVID. It was in February of 2020. And I was so honored that she got in touch with me and let me know that he had transitioned. And so yeah, I mean, I think of him all the time. I think he helps me a lot with when I do animal reiki, especially with dogs. And I feel very grateful to have known that little guy and been able to give and receive love with him.
Thaddeus.
Thaddeus Maximus Williams Hammer was his name.
It's a regal name. I am going to share with you. This is Cocktail, which is kind of funny because it looks like a mixer, but this is a tiny urn. When I'm a person in 12 step, shout out for the One Spirit and Recovery meeting. But I'm a person in 12 step, but before I got sober, I was trying to change my life, and I moved out of the city to the country because I thought that would get me sorted out. And when I got here, I was very lonely. I didn't know anyone, and I ended up getting these two little kittens. I had lost a cat in a divorce, and I had lost a cat who had died. So I went out and got these two little kittens, and I'm embarrassed to say I named them Cocktail and Chaser because I thought that was clever at the time. And then Chaser would never come to his name, so he got named Ringo for some reason. I can't remember why he got named Ringo. But it was kind of a reminder. I used to call Cocktail Mommy's last cocktail because I got sober a few months after that. And then one day, and then I still remember it, and it still brings tears. About 8 years ago, maybe 8-9 years ago. One morning I was very busy, and I was getting ready to go to a retreat. And I remember I let Cocktail out in the morning because they used to go out in the morning, for a little roundabout, the cats used to go out for a little while and then come back in. And I remember him walking across the deck and kind of looking behind me, and he never came back. He was about 13, and I was at the retreat. My husband called and said, he hasn't come home yet. He hasn't come home yet. He hasn't come home yet. And he didn't come home. And, we tried the normal things you do for cats to come home. And about 3 weeks later, he had still not come home. I paid a service to robo-dial my neighbors and all sorts of other things. And he didn't come home. And we were planned to go on an international trip to visit my stepson. And we had the gut-wrenching decision of, do we go or do we not go? And right before that, we got a hit from a woman who said, I think your cat might be in our yard. And so we rushed over there, and we had kind of a bell we used to ding to get them back in the house. And we're in this woman's yard at like midnight, ringing the bell and going, Cocktail, Cocktail, here kitty kitty, here kitty kitty. And this woman came to the door and said, what are you doing? And I said, well, you called for the cat. And she said, no, we didn't. You're at the wrong house. And so we were in some strange neighbor's home, but Cocktail never came home. And he, I used to say he was out on walkabout. He was out on walkabout. And then at a certain time, I realized he probably wasn't still out on walkabout due to his age. And so I did a little ritual. I wrote him a letter, and I burned the letter, and I put the letter here in this urn. And this is my symbol of Cocktail.
This is my daughter, who is now a much bigger teenager, curled up with our dog Zuzu. She was 5 at the time. She's 16 now. And Zuzu is actually the reason that I'm here. We got Zuzu when my kids were little, and I was a full-time parent. I left the workforce to raise my kids. And when my kids got a little older, I wanted to start doing things that were more meaningful to me. So Zuzu was this amazing dog that everyone loved. My neighbor called him the unicorn. Um, he just was, wherever he went, a presence of unconditional love and curiosity and joy. And so I got him trained as a therapy dog through Pet Partners. And Zuzu and I started visiting nursing homes and children's hospitals. And it just was such a profound experience for me to go with Zuzu to these places of intense suffering where people don't really want to go, and see the joy and the love and the comfort that he brought to everyone whose life he touched. And when Zuzu died very suddenly and unexpectedly, in my grief, I was praying and trying to figure out what I was going to do. And the little voice from I don't know where said, "Why don't you become a chaplain? That's what you and Zuzu were doing." And it had never in a million years occurred to me, but that is why I started Googling seminaries and how do you become a chaplain? And that is actually how I ended up at One Spirit. And after I graduated from One Spirit, I've gone on to study chaplaincy and have worked as a chaplain for several years. And I owe it all to Zuzu, who I believe is always watching over me.
It's beautiful. I was just thinking, Elizabeth, as you finished, that it's actually animals that brought the three of us together as well to do this event.
Yeah.
That all of these lives, all of these beautiful beings had a hand in connecting the three of us.
I think animals are better at seeing the big picture than we are. And anyway, I appreciate listening to your all's shares, so thank you. Cocktail and Zuzu.
And Thaddeus, Maximus,
Thaddeus.
something Hammer.
Williams, yeah.
Well, I forget the easy one. Yeah. Well, folks are going to be coming back from their rooms here in just a minute, in 1 minute. And if you are watching us in the future on YouTube, High Future People, take a moment to think about a being that you lost. Maybe some of our stories have brought up something or memories for you. And keep them in mind as we do the ritual that we'll be doing right after everyone comes back into this room.
Welcome everyone back from your breakout groups, from your sharing. And I would just like to invite you all, if you haven't already, to put your screens in gallery view. And I know some of you have your animal companions right there with you, but if you have a memento or a photo or something from your sharing in your breakout group that you would like to share with the rest of us, I would just like to invite everybody to hold up for the cameras so that we can all share our beloveds with one another. And go ahead and scroll through. We have a couple of different screens. Oh, look at these beautiful faces. Kitties and puppies on phones and pictures. How precious and how privileged we are to have had these beings share their lives with us. So we are going to have a little ritual to honor the lives that we have lost, what they have meant to us, what they have brought to enrich our lives. I would like to invite you to go ahead and type the names of anyone that you would like us to remember in the chat. And Rev Marshall is going to read off the names for us. And for each one of our beloveds, I'm going to light a candle. And hopefully we will have a whole collection of brilliant lights to remember our beloveds. Go ahead, Rev Marshall.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Oh, wow. Seeing all those names come in. If I mispronounce any, just say them to yourself in your head so that we get it right. So we honor Redbone and Sam, Fran, Lady, who's a Springer Spaniel mix, Jackson, we ask for blessings for Kaluha, Oompa and Tuxie, Tutto and Benny, and we honor Josie and Yuri, Mara, blessings for Saber, Gretel, Tommy, Rudy and Fred, and I see AKA, but it may be Aka, Puppy, we honor Puppy, blessings for Baxter, Shanti, and Jake, look at all this light illuminating. Kayla, blessings for Kayla, and Bit, Murphy, Nala, and Cody, Rufus, Muffin, blessings to Bob and Ed, and Yuki, here we've got a whole family, Clovis, Pistol, Rudy, and Snoopy. We honor them. We honor Max. Blessings to Abby, Sue, Button, and Beanie. We honor Socks and Josie. Rorschach. We honor Henry, Phoebe, and Seneca, Argos, we've got Gumbo, Serica, Rudy, Winston, Cinnamon, Mandla, Kalunga, and Lataba. Pardon me, Reverend Diane, if I got those mispronounced. And then we offer blessings to Poe, Shalimar, Lilliput, Dipsy Doodlebug, Jeezy Girl and Chloe, and Sweet Potato Cat, and we honor Nuki, Cassidy, Indy, who's still alive but not with their human anymore, Luna, Jip, Poncho, and Chico, blessings to Max, Shakti, and Hudson, and to Penny, Cat, Wally, Great and Wonderful, and we honor Luke the guide dog. We honor Dash, Snick, Sim, and Baby, Bean the cat, and Luv. And we've got the list here. Thank you so much for sharing these names.
So with our candles, we honor all of these beloved companions, remembering them by name. And now we would like to spend a few minutes to honor and remember the billions of beloveds who have been lost and have had no one to remember them by name.
So I invite you to take a deep breath as we transition from ritual, or I suppose from prayerful ritual to straight up prayer. Noticing how your body feels, what it feels like to witness each other's losses, and the light of each of these beings who we know by name. And can we bring that same type of light to those beings we don't know by individual name, or who we have not named personally? Those who we don't know what they call themselves or what they call each other. How does this feel in our body? And so we'll name a few of them. Prayers for the endangered African forest elephant, threatened by habitat loss. Prayers for the endangered hawksbill turtle, struggling to live in clean waters. And prayers for big cats. I know Diane mentioned a few big cats already, but how about adding the endangered Sunda tiger? Take a moment and offer prayers out to these beings who are still with us. For how long?
We honor and pray for animals in war zones, in Ukraine and many other conflict zones all over the world, and captive animals, such as those wild and exotic animals in zoos and circuses, animals in factory farms, animals whose quality of life and freedom is disregarded. We honor and pray for them.
We honor and pray for all of those creatures whose lives are endangered due to our human impact upon the planet. We pray for polar bears, whose homes and hunting grounds on Arctic ice floes are melting. For koala bears and other species whose habitats were destroyed in climate change fueled fires. We honor and pray for sea turtles, for coral reefs who have been decimated by increasing ocean temperatures. We honor and pray for the bees, pollinators who are so crucial to the entire Earth's food chain, and yet whose numbers are in dramatic decline.
And so we pray for all of these and remember all of these things that we have talked about tonight. We offer blessings on the beautiful, joyful, hysterical, ridiculous relationships that we have with beings, like my ridiculous relationship with squirrels, or your relationship with your dog or cat, or Marshall's Instagram, which often has all sorts of little creepy crawlies along it. We think about these wonderful, joyful human animal bonds, about the health benefits and the wellness benefits, and guys showing up on Zoom declaring, I am not a cat. Really, I am not a cat. All of that, this both and space of our wonderful relationships and the awareness of the pain that we feel when we lose an animal and the angst we feel about the animals that we've just mentioned. And so if you would be so kind as to join me in a final blessing for all of them, speaking aloud these words. May all creatures everywhere be happy and free. May the thoughts, words, and actions of our lives contribute to this happiness and to this freedom for all. May it be so. Amen. So mote it be. So it is. Amen. If I missed your last word, please add it in. And because we tend to stop here, always with a piece of music, we have a little offering from Marshall, and then we'll close up with a couple of closing thoughts and a chance for you all to say hello to each other. Marshall, take it away.
All right, so this is called, well, this is Prior's song. I guess it's called Prior's song. And please pardon me if I'm a little hoarse. Prior is my little boy. He loves me and I adore him. Prior likes to chase his ball. Will he give it back? Most times he stalls and won't. When we're at home, we run and play. Take a nap on quiet days. When human interaction's just too much. You are more than a dog. You are more than a friend. I wish I knew what's on your mind. Maybe best that you don't say. Then again, Prior does destroy my shoes. My camper title did get chewed too. Even though he kills his toys, as I pick the fuzz up off the floor, he rushes me with love and puppy hugs. You are more than a dog. You are more than a friend. I wish I knew what's on your mind. Maybe best that you don't say. Then again,
Thank you, Marshall. Rev Marshall. Thank you, Rev Elizabeth. Thank you, David, for steering us in the Zoomosphere. Thank you all for coming. If you are feeling a little tender right now, be aware of that. As you leave, you may want to spend a little time attending to your heart. So it feels a little odd to tell you all my closing announcements with that all said and how it feels in my heart. So I will make them quick. If you are interested in honoring animal lives and animals as they lose their breath, I have a new book out called Sacred Sendoffs, which mails April 12th. If you already ordered it, or if you're interested in getting it, you can find it wherever you find books or at sacredsendoffs.org. If you are interested in interspecies spirituality, please feel invited, invited is the right word, to join me the fourth Sunday of every month for Interspecies Church-ish at compassionconsortium.org. You can find the information about that. And finally, because I work with a lot of people around animal laws who aren't necessarily ready to do a ritual in public, I recently put together a little DIY ritual kit for animal loss. And it has 4 different rituals in it. Oh, where's my camera? Based on earth, air, water, and fire. You can find those at sacredsendoffs.org. And if you are here to, oh, and also a little card for some animal meditations and some guided meditations for animal loss, some other support tools. If you are here tonight and you recently had a loss, I will send you one of these for free if you email me at revsarah@onespirit.org. And that's the end of the housekeeping. So we're so glad that you came here. Keep your light shining for all of the other than humans in this world. And David will give us all the power to be loquacious and unmute yourself if you have anything you'd like to say.